If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. The best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. The more you learn, the more you'll earn. We don't have to be smarter than the rest. We have to be more disciplined than the rest. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. Activity is the enemy of investment returns. You don't need to have extraordinary effort to achieve extraordinary results. You just need to do the ordinary, everyday things exceptionally well. Look for 3 things in a person: intelligence, energy, and integrity. If they don't have the last one, don't even bother with the first 2. It's good to learn from your mistakes. It's better to learn from other people's mistakes. People will always try to stop you from doing the right thing if it is unconventional. There are 3 kinds of people: 1, innovators; 2, imitators; 3, idiots. Sound investing can make you very wealthy if you're not in too big a hurry. The one piece of advice I can give you is, do what turns you on. Do something that if you had all the money in the world, you'd still be doing it. You've got to have a reason to jump out of bed in the morning. If you don't feel comfortable owning something for 10 years, then don't own it for 10 minutes. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. The true investor welcomes volatility. A wildly fluctuating market means that irrationally low prices will periodically be attached to solid businesses. Learning how to live is much more important than learning how to make a living. Never depend on single income. Make investment to create a second source. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your money. The only question is whether you're going to do it today or tomorrow. If you keep saying you're going to do it tomorrow, you will never do it. You have to get on it today. The rich invest in time, the poor invest in money. The key to success is emotional stability. Honesty is a very expensive gift. Don't expect it from cheap people. Games are won by players who focus on the playing field, not by those whose eyes are glued to the scoreboard. We don't get paid for being busy, we get paid for being right. A great investment opportunity occurs when a marvelous business encounters a one-time huge, but solvable problem. You can't make a good deal with a bad person. What the wise do in the beginning, fools do in the end. Asking for financial advice from a financial planner is like asking a barber if you need a haircut. Be fearful when the markets get greedy. Be greedy when the markets get fearful. Beware of geeks bearing formulas. Don't risk what is important to you to get what is not important to you. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. Outstanding long-term results are produced primarily by avoiding dumb decisions rather than by making brilliant ones. You can be sure that over the next 10 years, you'll see something that you did not think was possible. Well, I think the biggest mistake is not learning the habits of saving properly early. Because saving is a habit. And then, trying to get rich quick. It's pretty easy to get well-to-do slowly. But it's not easy to get rich quick. A home is one of the most important assets that most people will ever buy. Homes are also where memories are made, and you want to work with someone you can trust. You've got to keep control of your time, and you can't unless you say no. You can't let people set your agenda in life. Investment ideas, like women, are often more exciting than punctual. The key to life is to figure out who to be the bad boy for. A lot of great fortunes in the world have been made by owning a single wonderful business. If you understand the business, you don't need to own very many of them. A lot of great fortunes in the world have been made by owning a single wonderful business. If you understand the business, you don't need to own very many of them. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. The trick is, when there is nothing to do, do nothing. Diversification may preserve wealth, but concentration builds wealth. Failure comes from ego, greed, envy, fear, imitation. I have success not because I am smart, but because I am rational. Investors can't pick stocks that are better than average. Stocks are a good thing to own over time. There's only 2 things you can do wrong: you can buy the wrong ones, and you can buy or sell them at the wrong time. And the truth is, you never need to sell them. If you want to soar like an eagle in life, you can't be flocking with the turkeys. It's much easier to stay out of trouble now than to get out of trouble later. The secret to happiness is having low expectations. The most important quality for an investor is temperament, not intellect. The stock market is designed to transfer money from the active to the patient. Never test the depth of river with both the feet. The most important investment you can make is in yourself. Nobody can tax it or take it away from you. The greatest investment a young person can make is in their own education, in their own mind. Because money comes and goes. Relationships come and go. But what you learn once stays with you forever. If you buy things you do not need, soon you will have to sell things you need. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. By companies with strong histories of profitability and with a dominant business franchise. Trust is like the air we breathe. When it's present, nobody really notices. When it's absent, everybody notices. Money is not everything. Make sure you earn a lot before speaking such nonsense. We make investment decisions based on our evaluation of the most profitable combination of probabilities. Intensity is the price of excellence. What you really want to do in investments is figure out what's important and knowable. If it's unimportant or unknowable, you forget about it. When investing, pessimism is your friend, euphoria the enemy. Take the probability of loss times the amount of possible loss from the probability of gain times the amount of possible gain. That is what we're trying to do. It's imperfect, but that's what it's all about. When it's raining gold, reach for a bucket, not a thimble. Basically, the single most important decision in evaluating a business is pricing power. Focus alone is not enough. Putting in the time to commit is also crucial to achieve success. Investment students need only 2 well-taught courses: how to value a business and how to think about market prices. It is better to point out your own mistakes than have somebody else do it. Too often, a vast collection of possessions ends up possessing its owner. Your money can be inflated away, but your knowledge and talent cannot. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. I think you should read everything you can. In my case, by the age of 10, I'd read every book in the Omaha Public Library about investing, some twice. You need to fill your mind with various competing thoughts and decide which makes sense. Look for companies with high profit margins. Today, people who hold cash equivalents feel comfortable. They shouldn't. They have opted for a terrible long-term asset, one that pays virtually nothing and is certain to depreciate in value. Look at market fluctuations as your friend rather than your enemy. Profit from folly rather than participate in it. All there is to investing is picking good stocks at good times and staying with them as long as they remain good companies. The truth is, everything that has happened in my life that I thought was a crushing event at the time has turned out for the better. It's a good idea to review past mistakes before committing new ones. Beware of the investment activity that produces applause. The great moves are usually greeted by yawns. The gross profits in many workouts appear quite small. It's a little like looking for parking meters with some time left on them. However, the predictability coupled with a short holding period produces quite decent average annual rates of return after allowance for the occasional substantial loss. If you want your business to survive for 100 years, you've got to make it through every single day for 100 years. It's not enough to do it 99.9% of the time. Life is like a snowball. The important thing is finding wet snow and a really long hill. Much success can be attributed to inactivity. Most investors cannot resist the temptation to constantly buy and sell. The future is never clear. You pay a very high price in the stock market for a cheery consensus. Uncertainty actually is the friend of the buyer of long-term values. The plan itself is opportunism. There is no plan before that. Bad terminology is the enemy of good thinking. It is easier to rationalize than it is to be rational. If you're extremely rich and you have got children, my theory was, you give them enough so they can do anything, but not enough so they can do nothing. Be brave when others are afraid, and afraid when others are brave. Our investments continue to be few in number and simple in concept. The truly big investment idea can usually be explained in a short paragraph. We like a business with enduring competitive advantages that is run by able and owner-oriented people. When these attributes exist, and when we can make purchases at sensible prices, it is hard to go wrong. Never be afraid to ask for too much when selling or offer too little when buying. The key to investing is not assessing how much an industry is going to affect society or how much it will grow, but rather determining the competitive advantage of any given company and, above all, the durability of that advantage. The extraordinary business does not require good management. In the world of business, the people who are most successful are those who are doing what they love. Never do anything in life if you would be ashamed of seeing it printed on the front page of your hometown newspaper for your friends and family to see. Focus on your customers and lead your people as though their lives depend on your success. I've often felt there might be more to be gained by studying business failures than business successes. Successful investing takes time, discipline, and patience. No matter how great the talent or effort, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. The business schools reward difficult, complex behavior more than simple behavior, but simple behavior is more effective. In a commodity business, it's very hard to be smarter than your dumbest competitor. Gold gets dug out of the ground in Africa or someplace. Then we melt it down, dig another hole, bury it again, and pay people to stand around guarding it. It has no utility. Anyone watching from Mars would be scratching their head. Buy stocks like you buy your groceries, not like you buy your perfume. There's no use running if you're on the wrong road. Stocks are the only thing that people are happy to buy when the price goes up. Whatever you like to do, make it a hobby, and whatever the world likes to do, make it a business. Time is the friend of the wonderful business. It's the enemy of the lousy business. If you're in a lousy business for a long time, you're going to get a lousy result, even if you buy it cheap. If you're in a wonderful business for a long time, even if you pay a little too much going in, you're going to get a wonderful result if you stay in a long time. The happiest people do not necessarily have the best things. They simply appreciate the things they have. Other guys read Playboy. I read annual reports. Everybody's got a different circle of competence. The important thing is not how big the circle is. The important thing is staying inside the circle. Always associate yourself with people who are better than you. Charlie and I have a number of filters that things have to get through before we'll think about them. Knowing the edge of your competency is important. If you think you know more than you do, you will get in trouble. If book knowledge made great investors, then the librarians would all be rich. The fundamental basis of above-average performance in the long run is sustainable competitive advantage. Traditional wisdom is long on tradition and short on wisdom. Read 500 pages every day. That's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest. If you've got the power to raise prices without losing business to a competitor, you've got a very good business. And if you have to have a prayer session before raising the price by 1/10 of a cent, then you've got a terrible business. I've been in both, and I know the difference. There is nothing like writing to force you to think and get your thoughts straight. Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. It is more important to say no to an opportunity than to say yes to. Don't invest in pieces of papers, invest in great businesses underlying them. You're neither right nor wrong because other people agree with you. You're right because your facts are right and your reasoning is right. That's the only thing that makes you right. And if your facts and reasoning are right, you don't have to worry about anybody else. If you understood a business perfectly and the future of the business, you would need very little in the way of a margin of safety. So, the more vulnerable the business is, assuming you still want to invest in it, the larger margin of safety you'd need. If you're driving a truck across a bridge that says it holds 10,000 pounds and you've got a 9,800 pound vehicle, if the bridge is 6 inches above the crevice it covers, you may feel okay. But if it's over the Grand Canyon, you may feel you want a little larger margin of safety. I always knew I was going to be rich. I don't think I ever doubted it for a minute. If the reason for doing something is that everyone else is doing it, it's not a good enough reason. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. The power of unconditional love. I mean, there is no power on earth like unconditional love. Too often, executive compensation in the US is ridiculously out of line with performance. That won't change, moreover, because the deck is stacked against investors when it comes to the CEO's pay. The upshot is that a mediocre or worse CEO, aided by his hand-picked VP of Human Relations and a consultant from the ever-accommodating firm of Ratchet and Bingo, all too often receives gobs of money from an ill-designed compensation arrangement. The best asset is your own self. You can become to an enormous degree the person you want to be when bills come due. Only cash is legal tender. Don't leave home without it. I make plenty of mistakes and I'll make plenty more mistakes, too. That's part of the game. You've just got to make sure that the right things overcome the wrong ones. Cultivate curiosity and strive to become a little wiser every day. Only when you combine sound intellect with emotional discipline do you get rational behavior. Calculate owner earnings to get a true reflection of value. First come the innovators, then come the imitators, then come the idiots. Our system works. Over time, people will live better and better. We have a system that unleashes human potential, and now China has a system that unleashes human potential. We will have interruptions. We overshoot and undershoot sometimes, but your kids and grandkids will live better than you. Over time, we move ahead at a pretty damn rapid rate. With a wonderful business, you can figure out what will happen. You can't figure out when it will happen. You don't want to focus on when, you want to focus on what. If you're right about what, you don't have to worry about when. You have to understand accounting, and you have to understand the nuances of accounting. It's the language of business, and it's an imperfect language, but unless you are willing to put in the effort to learn accounting, how to read and interpret financial statements, you really shouldn't select stocks yourself. We really can say no in 10 seconds or so to 90% plus of all the things that come along simply because we have these filters. The great personal fortunes in the country weren't built on a portfolio of 50 companies. They were built by someone who identified one wonderful business. With each investment you make, you should have the courage and the conviction to place at least 10% of your net worth in that stock. It's got to be the best intellectual exercise out there. You're seeing through new situations every 10 minutes. In the stock market, you don't base your decisions on what the market is doing, but on what you think is rational. Bridge is about weighing gain-loss ratios. You're doing calculations all the time. Part of making good decisions in business is recognizing the poor decisions you've made and why they were poor. I've made lots of mistakes. I'm going to make more. It's the name of the game. You don't want to expect perfection in yourself. You want to strive to do your best. It's too demanding to expect perfection in yourself. When they get their ego involved, people do things they shouldn't do. I know what I want to do, and it makes sense to get going. We will prosper or suffer in controlled investments in relation to the operating performances of our businesses. We will not attempt to profit by playing various games in the securities markets. Investing in yourself is the best thing you can do. If you've got talents, no one can take them from you.